Wendy Kennedy. Welcome to Fear Unzipped. I'm so happy to have you here. And I have to share with the listeners something that's very meaningful to me about you. And that is when Fear Unzipped came, it came through me. It really didn't come from me. I really felt it came through me. And I thought, who do I want to have on? And you are literally one of the first guests that I thought of. You're a channeler, an intuitive, an empath. You have such integrity, and you carry the responsibility of what you do with so much respect. So I really wanted you, and I thought, well, Wendy doesn't know me. I'm going to reach out, uh, you know. So I reached out, and I got a response immediately. But you were so busy and traveling the world and going to Egypt. But you stayed in touch, and this is what many months later, and you're on, and it means a lot to me. I just want you to know that it means everything to me. So
Oh,
welcome.
well, thank you. And thank you very much for having me. It's my honor to be here.
Oh, you're so sweet. So what we're going to do, I want listeners to listen to your backstory, kind of how you got to where you are. I know you've shared it many times, but there are a lot of people here that will not have heard your story before. So will you share that, how this all came to be, what you were like before?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to believe it's been 30 years.
Mhm.
And when I first started this journey, I certainly never imagined this is where I would be. I started having visions, and at the time, I didn't know what the visions were. Looking back now, I know they were past life related, but at the time, I thought maybe they were associated with the building that I was living in. I was living in this
Mm.
old building in Chicago, and it was turned into an apartment complex. And so I started doing some research just to see, I thought maybe it's haunted. And along the way, I came across channeling, and I did not know what it was. I didn't know anybody who did it. I just felt this really deep calling within me that it was something that I was supposed to be doing. And I can remember saying to my friends, I know this sounds insane, but I feel like I'm supposed to do this. And my friends were incredibly supportive, and they were the first to volunteer. They said, "Well, if you can do this, I'm in. You can use me as a guinea pig." And so I got a couple of books, and at the time, this was the early mid 90s. There was not a lot of
Mhm.
information out there. There were a handful of channelers who had books. And so I started doing some of the exercises, and I came from a theater and film background. I have a degree in theater and film. And, it was a great training ground for what I do today because it really got me in touch with my body. It got me to look at what motivates us to do the things that we do, and things that I probably wouldn't have explored at an early age had I have studied something else. So it was a perfect place for me to start. And looking back now, knowing what I know, there were things that I experienced earlier on that were past life memories servicing and things like that. So I had been working on myself. And so I started to do some of these exercises, and I would have a very visceral response.
When you're channeling, and a lot of people ask me, how do you know you're channeling? How do you connect to your guides? How do I know I'm not making all this up? Is there some words of wisdom you can share with people about that?
So the experience is going to be different for everyone, but absolutely all of us have the ability to connect with our guides, connect with higher energy, Akashic records, the records of, what has been, is, and will be. It's just a matter of kind of getting ourselves centered. The guides say ground and heart centered, and then tuning in to the frequency that you want to receive. It's like being a radio where you're receiving this specific station, and then you have to turn the volume up. So as you first start, it might feel like your imagination. And the guides always say, just kind of go with it and ask for confirmation
Mhm.
because it's subtle energy that we're working with. And that requires repetition. It requires us to be in that energy for just a little bit before we can begin to notice that it actually feels different than our imagination. Our imagination will feel flat in comparison to channeling because there's so much more information that is encoded in the transmission. So I might channel "It's a nice day," but what I know is that it's 70 degrees, there's a light breeze, the birds are chirping, the grass is green. There's just so much more data that's in there that doesn't come out in words, but there's a knowingness that comes along with it. And as you start to work with it and practice, you begin to recognize the difference. And, you can ask for confirmation. And the guides always say that if you say, "Oh, I wonder, is this my confirmation?" Maybe you're seeing repeated patterns or you overhear the same conversation being held, the answer, that you are asking, somebody else is asking it, and somebody's giving an answer in front of you in line at the store. So, fear, let's talk about that. Um, so, for us, fear is not different than any other limiting belief. They're all aspects of fear itself. Oftentimes, we see you all give fear a specific frequency. But at the end of the day, all the limitations are an expression of fear from our vantage point. All of these things are illusionary. Your true divine self, which is who you are. It is the aspect of you having this physical experience. You just have covered that up with this personality, these thoughts of lack, limitation, and separation that say, oh, you're capable of this, not capable of that. This is true, that's not true. And it is that which carries the fear programs. We say there are two operating systems from which you experience reality here. One is through the ego mind, where the programs of fear, lack, limitation, and separation exist. And then you have the operating system of the heart. The heart does not have any of those filters. The heart is what allows you access to multidimensional information, to the higher realms. So at any given moment, you can move back and forth between the ego mind and the heart center. Now, the ego mind was necessary in order to play this game, in order to operate under the illusion of separation. And this is what you all decided to do. You said, well, can we enter into a game where we forget who we are? We go down in density, and then can we find our way back out? So, this is what you're in the midst of doing. You're finding your way back out right now. And you move back and forth between these two operating systems. Right now, you have been so conditioned to think that you are your ego programs that you get a bit trapped there. And we're here to remind you that you are none of those things, that you are everything. You are one with all that is. You are a spark of the divine. You are infinite. You are all powerful. It's just a matter of you moving back into that heart centered space where you can allow that energy to flow. So if you find yourself in the midst of fear, simply put yourself in your heart center. Think of something that makes you smile. Now, if you're really in the grips of it, we know it can feel very, very challenging. So you might have to come back repeatedly to this image. But if you create a practice for yourself where you are doing this on a regular basis, the times that you really feel in the midst of your fear, it will be much easier because you will have some muscle memory, so to speak, where you've done this so many times of returning to the heart that it will be easier for you when things feel really, really challenging. Again, it's moving from the operating system of the ego mind into the heart center. The ego mind is where all the challenge exists. The heart center is where all the solution energy is. So you're just moving between those two operating systems, and they run on different frequency ranges. So you're moving from the lower frequency ranges, even the ego programs that you might think are more positive, they're still in a lower frequency range than the energy that you access when you go into the frequencies of gratitude, appreciation, all that energy in the heart, that unconditional love. That's much, much higher than any of the programs that you will operate from through the ego mind. But there's a lot going on. And if you're interested to take a deeper dive in that, you can listen to our talk Frequency Wars that we gave. This period between 2019 and 2026 is what in the future is referred to as frequency wars, where there's a lot of vying for control of the way that you think, the way that you feel, what's happening in your physical bodies. And you ultimately have control. You have the ability to monitor how you feel in any given moment. What happens outside of you doesn't determine how you feel. You make a choice in how you feel. And you've got it a bit backwards because in the process of manifestation, the energy that you emanate is what is reflected back as your reality. So if you have fear programs running at the subconscious level, those are going out. Slow waveforms are going out. And if you aren't directing your energy, that is what is going to be manifest back to you.